Senator Hirono, Senator Ossoff. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm pleased and want to congratulate Senator Cruz for working hard to make sure that the bill contains robust protections for free speech. He's gone out of his way to try to make sure that big tech platforms can't collude with news media entities when it comes to content moderation and censorship. However, I confess that I am a little bit confused by the sponsors' support for the amendment, as it seems to potentially undermine the stated purpose of the legislation itself. The new language prohibits and denies antitrust immunity to platforms and publishers from discussing or agreeing on how a platform, quote, displays, ranks, distributes, suppresses, promotes, throttles, labels, filters, or curates the content of the eligible digital journalism providers, close quote. So the parties are now restricted from discussing, from agreeing on, from otherwise colluding with regard to, quote, pricing, terms, and conditions under which the covered platform may access the content of the eligible digital journalism providers. So under the terms of the bill now, with the text of this amendment in place, the only thing it seems to do is to force the platforms to pay the fair market value, specifically for the right to acquire, crawl, or index the publisher's content. Now let that sink in for a minute. Currently, they can do that for free under the fair use doctrine of our intellectual property laws. They can already do that, and they can do that for free. So why do they need to collude to do that? The bill explicitly says that it doesn't change our copyright or intellectual property laws. So what exactly are they paying the publishers for? The platforms are paying publishers for a property right, but it's a property right that they don't own under our intellectual property rights, under our intellectual property laws as they now exist. And because this new language prohibits the platforms and the publishers from agreeing on how or whether or in what way or to what extent the platform suppresses conduct, then there's nothing to stop the platform from simply accepting an agreement and then not crawling or indexing or using the publisher's content at all, and thus not paying anything to the publisher. So this seems to me to contradict, if not to completely undermine, the non-retaliation provision that prohibits the platforms from de-indexing a publisher in response to the formation of a cartel, the very type of cartel that is specifically, and in my view, troublingly authorized by this bill. So all of this, while I applaud the efforts of the amendment, and I applaud anything that restricts censorship by big tech, and I'm therefore inclined to support the amendment, I don't think the amendment does what the sponsors think it does. And I think it might well undermine the whole thing. But all of this comes on top of my broader, grave concerns that are as strong today as they were a few weeks ago when we first marked this bill up. If anything, they have gotten stronger as I've read through this bill. Those concerns all still linger. Among other things, this is a bill that troubles me because it links the financial incentives of big tech platforms and the new industry by requiring tech platforms to share their monopoly rents with the news industry, with news publishers, making publishers more dependent on big tech, not less. So for those among us who are concerned about that, about the dependency of news publishers on big tech, you should be concerned about this. We also should worry anytime we're offering a special carve-out to antitrust laws, conferring a significant benefit on the news industry. This creates some opportunities for mischief in the legislative process. The bill retains the fundamental flaw of attempting to improve competition by sanctioning the formation of cartels, something that our antitrust laws go out of their way to prohibit, something that our antitrust laws prohibit with criminal penalties attached to them. And here we are rushing in to create them, to authorize them, to sanction them, to condone them. This is really troubling. Where does it stop? If we do it for this industry, why wouldn't we do it for others? Before long, you can imagine Congress engaging in other uncomfortably close relationships with other industries, concluding that those industries, too, are sufficiently important, sufficiently favored by specific politicians, that we have to create carve-outs to our laws imposing criminal and massive civil sanctions for cartel behavior. What happens then? Moreover, this bill, separate and apart from those other concerns, ends up favoring large conglomerate publishers over smaller, local publishers. It allows the big guys to take revenue away from the little guys. Remember, when these relief orders in one of these arbitration matters comes to a close, 65% of the sums awarded are allocated according to the number of personnel employed by the respective publishers. Now, yeah, they carve out those with more than 1,500 employees, but they don't take into account the fact that there are smaller conglomerates that have some sort of common ownership. The Gannett example that we talked about a few weeks ago. This is still a bad bill. This is still a bill that undermines competition. This is still a bill that actually exacerbates the dependence of news publishers on big tech. It certainly doesn't solve it, and I think it makes it a lot worse. But at least the Cruz Amendment appears to impose some limitation, some restrictions on the news media and big tech colluding when it comes to censorship or content moderation, making the bill less offensive to me, but also, I think, making the bill even less effective in accomplishing what the bill incorrectly claims to do. And so I urge all of you to oppose this well-intentioned but highly problematic and ill-considered legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lee. We have two other senators seeking recognition, and I might say for the members of the committee, Senator Grassley has a conflict with an agriculture meeting at 10 o'clock, so we're trying to accommodate his schedule as well. So I recognize Senator Hirono.